And welcome back here to the Sawyer Center. We're now joined by Athletic Director Bobby Martin, who will be honoring in between the women's and men's game this evening. And Bobby, did you ever think when you started this job that you'd have a night named after you?
No, absolutely not. Nor did I think it 3 weeks ago.
So what, you've obviously been here a long time in a variety of roles. What made you finally decide that now is the right time to retire?
Well, biblically, it says there's a time and a season for everything. And I know in my heart it's the time and the season. Mm-hmm. So it just is, and I have no problem with that. Mm-hmm. So I've had a great time here. I love this school with all of my heart, and all of my children graduated from here. My wife graduated from here. I graduated from here. So I will walk away eternally grateful to SNU.
What are some of your fondest memories of when you first were here as a player? What sort of stands out, and how have things changed since then?
Well, it's changed a lot. Probably the first years as a player, my first year, we were 16 and 17 and struggled to get there. Mm-hmm. And the next year we were 31 and 6. And that kind of started off a real winning tradition over the years. So I probably playing that senior year with the group of guys that I played with, they were great players and great friends, and they still are great friends. And so, yeah, that's one of the foundational memories. I have 1,000 of them going on. You can see all around the building, the banners and all of that. That all of them, I probably have a story to go with them. Mm-hmm. So, without a doubt. So, yeah, it's been a great experience and a great ride.
You've overseen, like you said, a lot of change in the years that you've served here, both as a player, a coach, and administrator now. What's kind of the biggest change that you can remember?
When I came here, we had one program that was really funded in such a way that it could be successful, and that was men's basketball. Mm-hmm. And I was committed to trying to change all of that so that whatever we had, they would be competitive. They would have the opportunity to be competitive. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that over the years. We've won championship in women's golf, and I think we were runner-up once or twice. And women's basketball had an incredible run. Men's basketball have had, the first national championship. So I just feel strongly that my big desire at the time of coming was to make sure that all of our programs, all of our student athletes felt like they had an opportunity to be successful. And mm-hmm. So I'm thrilled that in reality I think we've accomplished that mm-hmm. overall.
And how were you able to do that? What was kind of your approach to making that a reality?
Well, it wasn't me, first of all. I mean, that's administratively, and it goes way beyond what I could do. But I made a very strong push my first year here to drop 5 sports and take that money and put it into the other 3 mm-hmm. that were not competitive. And in doing that, that allowed us to get much more competitive in the 4 programs that we were left with. I was not real popular at the time, obviously, but that gave us the start. And then as the school wanted to start adding sports and needed to start adding sports, I just told Dr. Gresham, I'll add anything you want us to as long as we bring them in at a point where they can be competitive. I don't want to bring in someone who doesn't have a chance to win. And I have to hire that coach knowing that I'm hiring a coach that just doesn't have a prayer. Mm-hmm. And so he understood that, and he agreed with it philosophically. And so we would bring them in at that level where they could be competitive. Not necessarily, we weren't funding them fully or anything, mm-hmm. but what we considered to be good enough to really to be able to stretch your mind and your kids' minds to the point of being able to win some championships and things. So that was probably the start of all of that. Mm-hmm. And that was hard because we needed students back then just like we do now. And and so it was kind of difficult, but administratively they supported us and got behind it, and it was real beneficial to the whole program.
It seems fitting that you're retiring at a time where most of the programs here at SNU are very competitive. The women are in the conference tournament for the first time as Division II members. The men have been rolling these past 2 years. The football team is finding its footing and being more competitive. And what's that transition been? Is probably one of the bigger things that you guys have gone through under your watch.
That was hard. Just the process itself is very, very difficult, and many ADs that were going through it at the same time in different stages. There was probably 40 or 50 at any one time. Only 10 in the same class you're in, but there was different stages of getting through it, and they were really. Those were tough days. I mean, we had so much work to do to get us where we had to be accepted into the NCAA. And I mean, I told our people we're not going to give them a reason to say no. And I hammered that home almost weekly. One would say, do we have to do this? We're not giving them a chance to say no. And so, that was kind of what was driving me. We had two schools, if I remember correctly, Northwestern and Rogers State. They were both held back a year. And if I remember correctly, OC was. And so that was my whole focus. We're going to do everything that they ask us to do, and we're going to do a little more. And so it was a very hard process, 5-year process. I'm forever indebted to the student athletes that stayed and worked hard, knowing they could not qualify for the NCAA national tournament. I mean, that's hard, and that was a lot for us to ask of them. But they did it, and they fought, and they worked hard, and so our student athletes have been great through that process.
Last question for you.
Okay.
When people look back on your time here and your legacy, what do you want people to remember about the job you did here?
Well, most of them will go, Bobby who? That's a hard question. I don't know that I have an answer to that. I hope the body of work defines that, and if it does, that's wonderful. If it doesn't, then I owe some people an apology. So that's probably how I would answer it.
Okay. Well, Bobby, thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for your service to the school.